And the second thing is, once you know what you own, you got to understand the terrain you're defending. That's a very simple fundamental. So if you don't know your network segments, like let me give you an example. In a defense in depth, and a lot of people will talk about castle and moat and like, look, if a mountain environment, military operations is so much like cyber because you have people that can come from every different vector and they've got windows and doors. What makes fighting in the city horrible, and that's why in World War II you saw Russian and German tank divisions literally fighting in an area less than a square mile because there's windows and there's doors, there's obstacles, and every few seconds it's pure chaos. That's cyber.
Yeah.
It's so because you can come in a window, you can come in a door. A window is a door and a port. Like all of a sudden now, I could think I'm secure because I'm engaging this guy 25 meters in front of me, but a guy that's half a mile away sitting on a rooftop with a Barrett can take me out. Right. So you got to have that you got to understand the terrain you're defending. So key terrain in cyberspace is really similar to the example I gave you in combat and warfare, which is it's like the high ground. So defenders need to know what's logically assembled and what their key terrain is. And that will give them the advantage because if you know your terrain better than the enemy, a lot of times people don't realize the enemy's going in there to learn your terrain so it knows where to attack you. So in a cyber operation, you have to do some kind of analysis of key terrain, and that's going to aid you in your strategy. So for example, I look at it simple. I work from the endpoint out. So at the endpoint, the first thing is what's my reserve? Is everything secure? If nothing's secure, then I don't want to go forward. So I got to know my endpoint. Then after I go to my endpoint, I got to go to my network segments. Then after I go to my network segments, I'm going to go to my firewall. Then after I go to my firewall, I'm going to worry about my business ecosystem. So when you look at that big wide, if you look at it as a cone, you got this big wide environment. Then it goes down to your firewall. Then it goes down to your network segments, and then it goes down into your endpoints. So one of the things that you worry about when you're in a defensive position, you want to basically use a word called canalization. You want to canalize the bad guys to where you're strongest and away from where you're weakest.
Yeah.
You see how so much of this is so cyber makes sense?
It is 100%. Yeah, it goes hand in hand.
So if I know where my key terrain is, I can now begin to start doing analysis at the endpoint. Where the first thing at the endpoint is, how do I make sure no matter what, that's my reserve. My endpoint needs to have backup. Then what I got to look at is how do I engage in the threat? How do I now engage with these guys in a way that I control the battlefield? How do I dominate the fight? Well, we use this concept when you start doing combined arms, because you got lots of people and same thing in a company, you got firewalls, you got intrusion detection systems, you got all these technologies. If you don't synchronize them for effect in an engagement area, you've got one-offs. You got to create a combined force, what we used to call combined arms, and create an engagement area. So the nice thing about an engagement area is it creates a unified view of your ecosystem, and it lets you build what's called a hammer and anvil defense. That goes all the way back to Alexander the Great, which is how do you let them in far enough in and then slam them from behind? How do you lock them down?